Heavy is the head that has to manage all of this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel.
We're now incentivized to buy what we already buy.
Fumbling through college had me building.
I also got some done on the other side.
And that was right around, I would say, May, maybe, right before renewing the lease for this property.
Welcome to the channel, Martha.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, I was going to say, I am getting up in their names, I'll tell you what.
Bills paid by other people, life was never this good. I had to step back, knowing that it's...
Welcome back to the channel. Everybody talks about a house poor, cash poor society where so many people are living off their home, right? They're buying the biggest home that they can. They're doing whatever it is that they can to feel good about their home. When you step into that, that's who they are, that's what they see, that's what they work for, that's what they literally live for, right? And being house poor is typically when you have more house than you need, you're not being able to cash flow any type of money elsewhere or really invest, but you're struggling every single day with a mortgage payment. If I'm being honest with you, the majority of people are probably not in that situation and in that boat, especially when there was about 60% of Americans who had that 3 to 4% interest rate. Now, of course, that number is going to drop with interest rates coming down and people starting to refinance into 6% interest rates. But what I want to talk about today is what I believe is actually going to be a killer for most people who decide to buy nice and shiny things. And so we're going to talk about the car market. We're going to talk about the car market because this is where even the most financially savvy people tend to make mistakes. This is where people start to lose their skin. This is where people start to lose their investments and everything that they've worked for and earned. You see, when people start to make more money, they find new ways to spend that money. Before you ever spend $1, you should think about how you're going to allocate a certain percentage of your finances to investments, right? Before I do anything, I already start investing in something, paying down something, right? Whether it's paying down the mortgages, whether it's investing more in the stock market, or whether it's adding more to my high yield savings account. I'm always increasing before I start splurging on fun. And so, with that being said, we're going to dive into why me leasing my Ioniq 5 was a great idea, and then why I'm going to possibly transition into ownership again of a vehicle in 2026. So, as everybody knows, when I owned my Hyundai Elantra, I was still coughing up $6,000 a year in car repairs and maintenance, not including gas that you had to pay, which was like $20 every week or every 4 to 5 days, right? With the Ioniq 5, you get to charge for free at a charging station. I didn't do that often because of the convenience of charging at home. But I also knew that this was a $50,000 vehicle, and instead of paying it off in cash, which I am more than capable of doing, I said, let me lease this thing. Let me figure out if I actually like the vehicle. And I do. The vehicle is a nice vehicle. It's plastic, easily dented, but all in all, nice, fast, stops on a dime, safe, secure. It is everything that you need for a starter EV. Here's the thing. It went from $50,000 in 2024 to now in 2026, a brand new Ioniq 5 is MSRP $35,000. On top of that, because I understand that the market is so weak right now, that people are struggling to find jobs and people are really having to keep a job in order to feel safe and secure. I understand that I am in a unique position where I can really walk into a dealership and start saying, I need $5,000 off MSRP. I need this car for $30,000. I need this car for 29,000. Yes, they may throw taxes and fees in there, but 29,000 for 35K car is not unrealistic to ask for. And so I get a 2-year newer car with updated features and possibly a little bit more range, and I paid a fraction of the price for it. Now, a lot of you may say, but you were leasing the car, so you were throwing away money. I just told you that I was paying $6,000 in maintenance owning a vehicle every single year. It would just break down every winter. We just came through one of the harshest winters in my state that I currently live in. And I tell you, if I had that Hyundai Elantra, I would have been in a big mess. I would have been in a big mess. I'm so grateful to now have a reliable vehicle and pay less. It was like less than $5,000 a year. To be exact, it was $414 a month. And that included dent insurance, which was like an extra $7. So I paid less than $6,000 a year that I paid when I owned a vehicle, and I was only going to get $5,000 to trade it in. I ended up selling it for $1,500 later. Long story. But all that to say, the car was saving me money because I no longer had to do repairs. And so many people would say, but a $6,000 repair 1 year doesn't mean you're always going to have $6,000 repairs. No, I had $6,000 repairs for 2-3 years, back to back to back, on a car that I owned from like year one. And so for me, I already knew that there was a constant problem. The undercarriage was always under maintenance. Undercarriage, something else would go wrong, something else would go wrong, something else would go wrong. And I'm just like, man, it's time to let this thing go. It's time to get into something else. And I'm super, super grateful. The only thing that I had to switch on this Ioniq 5 since getting it was one of the tires, and that was $300. Okay? So since then, I haven't had any issues whatsoever. Now, I've seen millionaires go and buy $600,000 vehicles, 100,000aires go and buy $100,000 vehicles. I was at BMW. I see that they got electric vehicles for $160,000 MSRP. That costs more than one of the houses that I purchased early on in my investment journey. And so when I see stuff like that, I'm like, that is literally $1,500 a month in rental payments that I could be receiving. You see, when people are buying these nice and fancy things, a $50,000 car is an investment in a property. It's legit an investment in a property. And so when I look at that, I'm like, hold up. There's so much more that can be done. Like, after I get off of this, talking to y'all, I'm going to be looking at how can I buy something? How can I buy real and tangible assets right now, instead of said purchase, right? Because people who truly invest and truly get to a bag, they're going to look at how can I invest to the point where all my money is paying for these investments rather than me paying out of pocket for my hard-earned income for said investments. And so I say all that to say it was a very, very wise decision, because imagine a $50,000 car is now worth $35,000. Forget about the miles that you put on it that depreciated further. I'm talking about a car with 0 miles at $35,000. You're going to tell me that that's a bad deal? And over the course of 2 years, I spent maybe 10 grand at most. You're going to tell me that that's a bad deal? And then I get to go into a different car with more upgrades, with better quality for the same price, if not cheaper? You're going to tell me that that's a bad deal? Of course not. Of course not. I made a wise decision, an absolutely wise decision. Testing out a car, learning it, getting everything I needed out of it, and then I may just go into a vehicle that is everything that this car is currently, but with 0 miles again, and no maintenance costs. No maintenance costs. And so I just throw that back on the dealership and I say, have a nice day. So the question now would be, why not lease again for another 2 years? And that's a very valid question. And when you're in the real estate game, when you're in the investor game, when you're taking out loans, your debt to income ratio does matter. And although you can put 20% down and not have to worry about your specific debt to income ratio when investing, because then they can look at the property and they can evaluate the property based on its own merit and based on what it should cash flow. I like to, it's not that I necessarily like to, but I like to put about 10% down because it gives me the best interest rates as of right now. That may change in the future. And, that allows me to maneuver a little bit better, but it also has a hindrance, which is you have to use your own debt to income ratio to qualify for these properties. And so when you have the ability to pay off a car and then just write it off of your debt to income ratio, that is a good option. When you have the ability to get a 0% interest vehicle over a long period of time, and while you're waiting to procure a purchase, you can slowly pay it off and not just throw a large chunk of money at it, even though you have the capability of doing so. And so it just allows for some flexibility. It allows for different options and different ways to maneuver. Even I right now don't know what strategy I'm going to implement when it comes that time, because I'm still looking at properties right now, still looking at what I might potentially buy prior to having to trade in the car and find something else. And so I may very well find a property before that or afterwards and then had to adjust my plan. And so adjusting is a part of life. Understanding the financial implications of your actions is a part of life. Not crippling yourself financially because you want to look good in a fancy car is a part of life. Now, granted, I am blessed that I do not value vehicles as much as some people do. My little brother absolutely loves gas guzzling vehicles, loves to hear that roar that they give off. He loves to just go from 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, because them things are slower than these EVs that we got. No shade, no shade. But at the end of the day, you understand, I'm super, super grateful that I personally don't necessarily have an affinity for these cars the way some other people do, because again, these are mainly depreciating assets that don't necessarily give you any value outside of the safety and security when transmuting around and transitioning around different environments, and then also just the utility of being able to get to A to B. Now, if you like this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let somebody know that they are making a bad decision if they're going to put 1 year's salary into a vehicle. And then also make sure you share this with a family member or a friend that needs to hear some good financial advice and knowledge, and also understand how the car market works just a little bit more. If you like this video, again, leave a like, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.